To join us and talk about this and some other security issues, David Hyde Security and Risk Management Specialists, David Hyde and Associates. And David is with us now. Good afternoon, David. How are you today?
Great, Scott. How are you?
Good. I want to throw a couple of topics at you. Before we get at the Canada Post thing, Bill Kelly was talking about this on his show. Of course, the murder in downtown Hamilton, talking about high rises and security in those high rises. People think that cameras will do a lot to deter this sort of thing. You're obviously an expert in this. You have a different opinion.
Well, I mean, cameras are just one part, Scott, of a broader suite of crime prevention and security measures. And if the cameras are properly installed and they're put in the right places, they can be of assistance. But cameras don't prevent crime. Cameras don't jump down off poles and walls and intercept bad people. And so what I see often is an over-reliance on cameras as kind of being a panacea for crime prevention, when, history has shown us that cameras, all the clips you see on TV and online of things that have happened, with security images have all come from cameras that those crimes have happened in front of.
If there is a crime to be committed, are bad guys smart enough to know not to do it in and around a camera? And would cameras perhaps be better at capturing random acts?
Well, there's some research on this, Scott, and it's very helpful to kind of give us some insights. The research suggests that just putting cameras up in and around the environment doesn't do all that much, and what it does do tends to wane over time. But when you have cameras that are very visible, there's signage in place reinforcing the fact that cameras are around the environment, and there's publicity campaign around this, so the city would promote it. People would get to know that they're in a camera-rich environment, if you will. That can be more productive. But if it's just the cameras are put up on their own and relied upon as a single measure, we've seen, unfortunately, quite miserable failures with cameras, although they are helpful to try to catch people after the fact when they provide evidence.
So more reactive as opposed to proactive.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're an excellent tool for law enforcement to try to piece together who came and went at what time. The other side of the coin, though, Scott, too, is that they need to be good quality. And very often we see some, the kind of lowball approach taken. We see cameras that aren't all that good quality, and the images they produce aren't very good. And these systems need to be maintained. Oftentimes with outside cameras, we see that the domes aren't cleaned and they aren't maintained properly. So the images that you do get aren't very good.
You had tweeted, when Bill was talking about this, you tweeted an article from the Edmonton Police Services and talked about how they policed high-rise areas and this sort of thing, and partnerships came out to play more than cameras did.
Absolutely. I mean, the Edmonton police have had a long history of community policing, as Hamilton and Toronto have also done a good job there. And this particular program, essentially what they had was a building they colloquially called Crack Towers. It was the highest crime building, high-rise in Edmonton. And it had murders and knifings and drug dealing and things. And they took a multifaceted approach. They brought the police in, social services in. They brought other community partners, the owner of the building, the tenants. And they figured out, where are the bad things happening? Who are the bad people? Where are the apartments that are causing the most problem, either by victims or by offenders? And how can we change the demographic? How can we get out the people that are causing some of the crime? And then how can we essentially beautify the environment, make it so that the residents would rather come outside and interact in the environment? What we currently have, oftentimes, is that residents turn their back on the community. They don't want to go in the hallways. They don't want to walk outside because they don't feel safe. So the only way to make community crime prevention work is to bring the community partners together and look at this in a holistic way. And I think the Edmonton program that was reported quite widely about a month ago or so is a phenomenal program, and crime was reduced by 98%. Murders, drug crime, everything, just a massive success all around.
How do you deal with a lack of cooperation, though, because perhaps people may not feel safe?
Well, I mean, it's all about building trust, and that's one of the challenges, you see, because sometimes when we've seen some of the Toronto community housing issues recently where the buildings get run down and the tenants and residents get sick and tired of asking to get things fixed and even just basic needs. So when you're in that kind of an environment, there's a theory called the broken windows theory that you've probably heard about from the 80s, and what that was essentially when the environment doesn't look as though it's cared for, when it looks run down, when it doesn't look as though people are maintaining maintaining it and whether there's any natural guardianship, then people don't behave on that property. The residents turn their back on it. They stay inside their suites, and the main people that come onto the property are criminals because they can see an opportunity to be there in quite an anonymous way. So, one of the big pushes that we see in public supported housing is to have a very community-minded approach and to look at what is it here that's causing, these kind of people, criminals, to come onto the property, and let's take away those things that are attractive to them.